Before beginning this lesson, you should click on the link on the weekly assignments to go to generationgenius.com to read about living versus non-living things. You can click on the speakers so it will read it aloud to you. If you've already done that, continue to watch this video and we will discuss the differences between living and non-living things. If you did the reading, you have learned that living things have certain characteristics. Those characteristics include they need air, they need food, they need water, they make copies of themselves, or what we call reproduce. They also grow or change. They can move on their own. And they're made of what are called cells. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put those things on our chart. So you can ask yourself questions as you sort living versus non-living things. For example, you may ask yourself, is it made of cells? Can it move on its own? Does it grow or change? Does it need air? Does it reproduce or make more of itself? Does it need water and food? So we're going to go through some pictures and we're going to sort them between living and non-living things. And these are the questions that we're going to ask ourselves to answer those questions. The first one I have is kids. Are kids living or non-living? Can you move on your own? I see you move a lot, so I think we're going to put this one under living. You may have a favorite one of these. This is a teddy bear. Is it living or non-living? Sometimes I used to think that my teddy bear was living, but I don't think it really can move on its own. And I don't think I've ever seen my teddy bear grow. So I think I'm going to put it under non-living. Oops. Now I have a rock. A rock. I know I can pick it up and I can throw it. I can move it. I don't think it needs air to grow. I don't think it grows at all. Since I answered those questions, I think I can pretty much be sure that it is a non-living thing. Now, this one is a bush. Do you have any bushes in your yard? Do they grow? Does mom or dad or grandma or aunt or uncle, do they have to cut them so that they don't get too big? If they're growing and they need water to grow, they need water. I think that means that they are definitely living. A turtle. Kaden, what do you think? Do you think a turtle is living or non-living? Why do you think that? Ooh, I know that turtles lay eggs in the beach. That means that they make more of themselves. That means they reproduce. That means that they are living. Bubbles. Wow, this one's a kind of tricky one because one of our questions says, does it grow or change? Bubbles surely do grow and they do change, but can they reproduce? Actually, I think they can. But this question also says, does it need food and water? Do bubbles need food or water, Brooklyn? You're right, they do not need food or water. So I'm gonna put it under non-living and add it to the rock and the teddy bear. A cheetah. This one's super cute. Let's see. Ooh, this looks like a baby cheetah. Do you think it's gonna get big? Eris, do you think it's gonna get bigger? That means it's growing, which is one of the things it has to do to be living. Does it need air, Eris? Will it make more babies when it grows up? And does it need food and water? I think the cheetah marks all those boxes, Eris. I think you're right. I think it's definitely living. Now I have a frog. Addison, what do you think a frog will do? Do you think it's living or non-living? Can it move on its own? Wow, I've seen some frogs hop pretty high. How about you, Addison? Okay, so we know that it moves on its own. Do they get bigger? I think they do. I've seen little frogs. I've seen big frogs. Oh, and frogs lay eggs, so that must mean that they make more of themselves. And they definitely eat food. And they definitely need air. So I'm going to put this under living. You are right, Addison. This one is found in the water. They call it a starfish. Did you know starfish aren't really starfish? They have another name for them. They're called a sea star. A sea star, because they're not really a fish, but we'll talk about that later. In any case, the arms of the starfish help it move around, so it can move. They do grow. They do need air they get from the water. And they do make babies. And they do eat. So I think they fall under living things as well. Wow, a book. Sometimes I really think books are living because they tell such wonderful stories. But once it's written, it does not grow, nor does it change. It doesn't need air either to live. I'm pretty sure, in fact, I know that a book is non-living. A cactus. A cactus is a type of a plant. It does grow. It can't move really on its own because it has roots, but it does need air, like a plant. It will reproduce. It will make more cacti, and it does need food and water. So this is definitely a living thing. How about mittens? What do you think, Milana? Do you think you need mittens? Do you think mittens are living or non-living? Remember, they don't grow, they don't change, they don't move on their own, and they don't need air, so they are non-living. How about a basketball, Victoria? What do you think? Oh, a basketball needs air to work, doesn't it? It needs air. Does that make it living? Oh, but does it move on its own? It really doesn't. We have to make it move, don't we? Can basketballs make more baby basketballs? No. You're right, Victoria. It is non-living. I have here a tree. A tree can't really move on its own because it has roots. But trees do grow and they do change. Their leaves change colors, they fall off, they grow more. They need air to live. Trees, I'm going to read a book to you next week about trees and how they do make more baby trees. And they do need food and water. So trees, just like the cactus and the bush, they all belong to plants, plant families, and they are living. We're going to learn a lot about plants next week. A snowman. Now, I can tell you that a snowman can change, because when he changes from a solid and he gets too warm and he melts and he changes into a liquid, he's going to shrink, but he doesn't grow. He can't move on his own, and he surely doesn't need air, and he's not going to make baby snowmen, unless, of course, it's a movie. And he doesn't need food. He might need water, because water is a part of snow, but he doesn't need all of those things, so he is non-living. This one is super duper 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 tricky. An apple. So I'm going to talk about this one a little bit, because an apple is a fruit that comes from a tree. While it is still attached to the tree, it does grow and it does change and it does need air. The pollen from the blossom before it turns into a fruit will help it to reproduce. And it does need food and it does need water, but that is all while it is attached to the tree. Once we pick the apple and we see it without the tree, it is no longer living. So the apple is not living. We're just going to do a couple more. A bottle. A bottle. Oh, I think this one is super easy. Super duper easy. What do you think, Maximus? What do you think it goes? Where do you think it goes? You're right. It's non-living. None of those things are true. A worm. I'm going to ask you to write about a worm sooner or later. A worm, I know. It moves on its own, doesn't it? It grows and it changes. It needs air. It can make baby worms, and it needs food and water. So what do you think, Jaxiel? Is it living or non-living? You are right. It is living. Ooh, bug. We're going to learn a lot about bugs later on, maybe at the end of the month, maybe into May. But we have a beetle here. What do you think? I'm not going to give you any hints. What do you think? Emma, what do you think? Living or non-living? You're right. It's living. This one right here, is it living or non-living, Emma? Think about it. It is non-living. A popsicle is not living, although it will change when you eat it up, won't it? So we have finished our chart. We have separated everything into non-living and living. Hopefully you have followed along and made some guesses and thought about these questions you have to ask. Can it move on its own? Does it grow or change? Does it need air? Does it reproduce or make more of itself? And does it need food or water? These are the things you need to ask if you're deciding whether something is living or non-living. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. I'll see you soon. Bye.